It was a rainy afternoon in the small town of Oak Ridge. The streets were slippery, and the shops were bustling with people trying to escape the downpour. In the corner of a quiet, forgotten alley stood a little art gallery, an oasis for those who appreciated beauty amidst the chaos of the world. Inside, the walls were adorned with vivid paintings, sketches, and sculptures, all created by a young, struggling artist named Lucas. Lucas had always dreamed of making a name for himself in the art world, but despite his undeniable talent, he had yet to catch a break. His gallery was hardly visited, and he could barely make ends meet. He spent his days painting in solitude, hoping for someone to recognize his work. But as the months passed, his hopes began to wane. On this particular rainy day, as Lucas was arranging his latest painting of a stormy sea, he heard the doorbell ring. He didn't expect anyone, especially not on such a gloomy day. When he looked up, he saw a man enter, drenched from the rain. He was tall, wearing an expensive suit that was now soaked, and his expression was one of distress. His dark eyes scanned the room, taking in the artwork with a mix of curiosity and indifference. "Can I help you?" Lucas asked, wiping his hands on his apron. The man, still looking at the paintings, nodded. "I'm looking for something unique," he said, his voice deep but weary. "Something that speaks to me." Lucas studied the man, noticing his tired face and disheveled appearance despite the expensive clothes. There was something about him that seemed off, like he was running from something or trying to escape. "Well," Lucas began, walking over to a nearby canvas. "This one might suit you. It's called The Storm Within." He gestured to a large painting depicting a turbulent sea, its waves crashing against a dark sky. The chaos in the image seemed to mirror the storm that raged outside the gallery's windows. The man stepped closer, staring intently at the painting. He paused, as if searching for the right words. "It's powerful." Lucas smiled softly. "It's one of my favorites. It's about overcoming the internal struggles that we all face. Sometimes the storm is inside us, not out there." The man's eyes lingered on the painting for a long time. His expression softened, and for a brief moment, Lucas saw a flicker of something, perhaps understanding or recognition. "I'll take it," the man said suddenly, pulling his wallet from his pocket. Lucas was taken aback. You want to buy it?" He couldn't believe his ears. Most people who visited his gallery just looked around and left, never returning. "Yes," the man replied. "I've seen many paintings, but this one feels different. I'll pay whatever it costs." Lucas hesitated, but the excitement inside him couldn't be contained. He gave the man the price, and after a few moments, the man handed over the money. It was more than Lucas had made in the past few months combined. As the man turned to leave, he looked back at Lucas. "Thank you. You have a gift. Don't let it go to waste." Before Lucas could respond, the man disappeared into the rain, leaving him standing there, holding the payment and still processing what had just happened. As the evening grew darker, Lucas couldn't help but feel a sense of hope rise within him. Perhaps this was the beginning of something bigger. But little did he know, this encounter was only the beginning of a much larger story, one that would change his life forever. Months passed after the rainy afternoon when Lucas sold his painting to the mysterious businessman. The gallery began to receive more visitors, and though the sales were still slow, Lucas felt a shift in the air. He found himself painting with renewed passion, hoping that one day his work would finally be recognized. One crisp morning, as Lucas opened his gallery, he found a letter waiting for him on the counter. It was a thick envelope, sealed with an elegant wax stamp. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but the return address sent a jolt through his chest. It was from Harrison Caldwell, the businessman who had purchased The Storm Within. Lucas had thought of him often since their meeting. He'd wondered why such a well-dressed, powerful man had been so moved by his work. There had been something in the way Harrison looked at the painting that made Lucas think their encounter wasn't just about art. It felt personal, even fateful. With trembling hands, Lucas opened the envelope and pulled out a letter. Dear Lucas, I hope this letter finds you well. It has been months since our meeting, but I find myself thinking about your work often, particularly the painting you sold me. It has become an important part of my life, more than I can explain. I would like to meet with you to discuss a potential collaboration and offer you an opportunity that could change everything for you. Please meet me at my office this Friday at 10 a.m. I look forward to speaking with you. Best regards, Harrison Caldwell. Lucas couldn't believe his eyes. A collaboration? An opportunity? He'd been struggling to keep his gallery open, but now it seemed like something far greater was on the horizon. He checked the date and time again, his heart racing. This was his chance, his big break. Friday morning arrived, and Lucas, dressed in his best clothes, though still far from the polished image of a businessman, made his way to the address on the letter. The building stood tall, gleaming with modern glass windows and a sleek, corporate design. As he entered, a receptionist directed him to the top floor. When Lucas stepped into the office, he was greeted by Harrison Caldwell, looking just as sharp and confident as the first time they met. But now there was something different about him. Harrison seemed more at ease, almost like he was waiting for something, a moment, an answer. Lucas, I'm glad you could make it, Harrison said, standing up to shake his hand. Please sit down. Lucas did, his mind racing. He had no idea what kind of collaboration Harrison was talking about. As he sat across from the businessman, Harrison's gaze lingered on him, studying him with an intensity that made Lucas uneasy, but also strangely important. I wanted to speak to you in person because, Harrison began, then paused, as if gathering his thoughts. I'm not just a businessman. I've had my share of failures, just like anyone else. But I've learned something along the way, the importance of taking chances, especially when you see potential where others might not. Lucas frowned, not entirely sure what Harrison was getting at. I see something in you, Lucas, Harrison continued. You're not just an artist. You're someone with the ability to change the world, but you're stuck. You're waiting for someone to take a chance on you, to believe in you. And I want to be that person. Lucas felt a lump form in his throat. What do you mean? I've been struggling to make a name for myself. But Harrison interrupted. I'm offering you a chance to be more than just a local artist. I want to back you, support your work, and make sure the world sees your talent. I have the resources to make that happen. All I ask is that you create something new, a piece that speaks to the world, something bold. Lucas blinked in disbelief. This was it, the opportunity he had dreamed of for years. But as the words sank in, something nagged at him. There was something about Harrison's offer that felt too perfect, too easy. I don't know what to say, Lucas stammered. This is more than I ever imagined. Harrison smiled, a glint of something in his eyes. Say yes, Lucas. Say yes, and I'll help you reach places you never thought possible. But as Lucas looked into Harrison's eyes, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than just art. He wasn't sure what it was, but something about Harrison's presence and words made him question the true motive behind this generous offer. I'll need time to think about it, Lucas said, trying to hide the unease creeping in. Harrison nodded, his smile unwavering. Of course. Take all the time you need. But remember, opportunities like this don't come often. Don't let it slip away. As Lucas left the office, the weight of the offer hung over him like a storm cloud. He couldn't deny that his dream was within reach, but a sense of doubt lingered. Was this truly the break he had been waiting for, Or was there a hidden agenda he hadn't yet uncovered? For the next few days, Lucas couldn't stop thinking about Harrison's offer. It was a dream come true, or at least it seemed like it. The chance to work with a successful businessman, to finally see his art in the spotlight, it was everything he had wanted. But the unease he felt in Harrison's office lingered in his mind. Something didn't sit right. After days of contemplation, Lucas decided to take the plunge. He called Harrison, agreeing to the collaboration. The next step would be the unveiling of a new painting, a masterpiece to showcase his talent. Harrison promised he would arrange a major event, inviting influential art collectors and media from all over the world. As the event approached, Lucas worked tirelessly on his new piece, a painting inspired by the struggle and triumph of human emotion. He poured his soul into it, hoping it would live up to the expectations of the man who had changed his life. But as the days passed, Lucas began to notice strange things. Harrison seemed more involved than necessary. He made frequent calls, appeared uninvited at Lucas' studio, and insisted on giving him advice on the painting itself. Lucas didn't mind at first, thinking it was part of the process. After all, Harrison was the man with the resources to make his dreams come true. But there was an odd intensity in Harrison's actions, a focus that felt too personal. The night before the unveiling, Lucas stood in front of the finished painting, staring at it in quiet contemplation. It was his best work yet, and for the first time in months he felt proud. But just as he was about to step away from the canvas, his phone rang. It was an unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. "Lucas, it's Sarah. I need to talk to you." "It's urgent." The voice on the other end was familiar. Sarah, an old friend who worked as a journalist in the art world. "Sarah? What's going on?" Lucas asked, his voice tense. "I've been doing some digging," Sarah said, her voice low. "I know you're working with Harrison Caldwell, and I hate to break it to you, but I think you should be careful." "Careful? What do you mean?" Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. "There's something about him, Lucas. Something you don't know. He's not just some businessman. He's been involved in some shady dealings in the past. I've been trying to track down information, but it's all been kept very quiet. He's got connections to people who will do anything to protect his interests." Lucas felt his stomach drop. He had no idea what Sarah was talking about. "What kind of dealings?" "I don't have all the details, but I've seen enough to know that he's not the person he claims to be," Sarah said. "He's playing a game with you, Lucas. And you might not be the one winning it." The line went silent as Lucas processed her words. His hands shook as he hung up the phone, and the room felt suddenly colder. Harrison, a shady businessman? The man who had seemed like his savior, the one who promised to elevate his career, now felt like a stranger, someone with a hidden agenda. Lucas couldn't ignore the growing sense of dread. He had to know more. He needed to confront Harrison before it was too late. The next day, the grand unveiling arrived. The gallery was filled with well-dressed guests, eager art collectors, and media representatives. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Lucas stood nervously beside his painting, waiting for Harrison to arrive. When Harrison finally walked in, Lucas could barely hide the tension in his expression. Harrison greeted him with a wide, confident smile, but Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that this man had been playing him from the very beginning. The event was a success, with everyone praising Lucas's work. But as the evening went on, Lucas noticed something unsettling. A few of the guests exchanged hushed words with Harrison, their conversations laced with too much secrecy. He felt as if he were standing on the edge of something far darker than he could have imagined. After the event, Lucas decided to confront Harrison. They were alone in the gallery, the last of the guests having left. Harrison looked pleased with the night's success, but Lucas couldn't keep quiet any longer. "Harrison," Lucas began, his voice firm, I need to ask you something. Sarah, she said some things about your past, about your connections. What is it that you're really after? Harrison's face tightened, the smile slipping from his lips. For a moment, there was an unsettling silence. Then, slowly, Harrison stepped closer to Lucas. "You've always been so perceptive, haven't you?" he said, his voice low and almost cold. "I never intended for you to find out this way. But you see, Lucas, I didn't just buy that painting because I thought it was beautiful. I bought it because I knew who you were long before you ever stepped into that gallery." Lucas felt his heart race. "What do you mean? Who am I to you?" Harrison's eyes darkened. "Your father was a very important man in my life. He was involved in some very powerful circles. But he died under mysterious circumstances when you were a child. I've been watching you, Lucas. You have no idea what your father was a part of, but I do. And I've been waiting for the right moment to approach you." The truth hit Lucas like a thunderclap. His father, the man who had always been a distant figure in his life, who had died when Lucas was too young to understand, had been involved with Harrison? Lucas had never known the full story of his father's past, and now he realized he had been caught in the web of a much larger, more dangerous game. "I didn't want to reveal this to you," Harrison continued, "but now it's time. You are not just an artist. You are part of something much bigger. And I've been helping you because you are the key to unlocking something far more valuable than any painting." Lucas stared at him in disbelief. The storm that had started all those months ago, the one that seemed to have brought him to this moment, was not just about his art. It was about his father's legacy. And now, Lucas had to decide whether to continue down this path or find a way to break free before it consumed him. And with that, the story ends, leaving Lucas to face a choice that could change his life forever.